The data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that Nigeria's total foreign trade fell by 8.4% to $10.8 billion in the month of April, while trade surplus declined month-on-month by 50.8% to $930 million. Bamdele Ayemibo, an export consultant, joins me for this discussion. Bamdele, thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
Yeah, good day. How are you?
Well, very well, thank you. Looking at these numbers, what is your reading? This is something you and I, we have seen that gradual easing of course, our trade numbers. But what is your reading of the latest numbers?
It's not unsurprising. It's expected, actually, because we are heavily dependent on oil, taking almost 80% of exports. And with the decline in, we're not even able to meet our quota as far as export of crude oil is concerned. So I'm not surprised at this at all because of maybe vandalization, theft, and a number of issues bedeviling the sector that Nigeria heavily dependent upon as far as exports is concerned, as far as trade is concerned, rather. And this just called for the need to really diversify. And this also reflects exactly why CBN is taking some of the measures it's taking, in the sense that the FX is not available as readily as before. And of course, you expect that import, what's interesting about that data for me also is import fell marginally, even though export fell seriously and leading to about 50% drop in the trade surplus. But import fell marginally, still telling you that in spite of all the measure of CBN putting in place, we are seeing a lot of importation, but not so much on the export side.
We've been on this diversification journey for several years now. I mean, many of the policies we've seen, of course, gain traction. There is a focus on diversifying the economy. We've seen non-oil receipts over the years, in and out, oscillate. We have seen government revenues from oil decline, and we've seen revenue from the non-oil, sector of the economy actually also do increase. So what should we be doing differently? We know that we have run into some unexpected headwinds, like, of course, the forex scarcity, the oil theft in the Niger Delta. But in terms of what we can do, in terms of, do we need additional policies, or do we need to just barrel down on the policies that we already have and just make them work better?
Definitely, we need to diversify by growing our non-oil exports. And CBN is already doing something in that direction with the RT200 FS program. And I'm waiting to see the Q2 report of MBS for trade, particularly non-oil export, because from CBN, the incentive that CBN is paying out for 165 naira for every dollar, the number was almost, I think, about 20 billion given out to exporters in the second quarter. So I want to assume there is a progress in that direction. But when I saw what CBN reported itself for non-oil export in April, I could not conclude yet. I'm waiting for May and June to see if what CBN is actually working on is working. But CBN, according to its report, it seems as if that policy is working. Now, another thing I think we should be looking at is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Trading with Europe and America has been challenging because quality issues were largely dependent on commodity. But a number of value-added manufactured goods of Nigeria is going to Africa, West Africa in particular, and with AFCFTA, we have the opportunity to be able to ship to many other parts of Africa. Now, but I'm not seeing a lot of conversation going on in that direction. Currently, there is a guided trade that is to be done from this month. Ghana is part of it, Morocco is part of it, Cameroon is part of it, Kenya, Ethiopia is part of it, but I can't see Nigeria on that list of the country to do that guided export, which in my opinion seems as if we really are not taking what I think will be a quick win for us to grow non-oil export and reduce pressure on Naira as an opportunity that we should take advantage of. I know there's an office that has been set up on this and seems to be doing a number of work, but the fact that we're now on that guided trade also shows that, look, we probably are not doing enough, in my opinion, as far as getting prepared for AFCFTA is concerned. If there's any time we need forex, I think this is the time we need to do a lot about it. Now, election is coming, and I have been advocating that it's also time for us to be asking the governors, why can't you generate forex by exporting products in your state? Why can't you form an alliance with people producing in your state and look at what you have competitive advantages? Do you know through Export-Extra, the state government can generate income and create jobs? Those are the two worries of state governors in Nigeria. generate income and create jobs. That means the state government partner with a business, like, let's say, for example, people that are in region where palm oil is being produced, partner with a company like, let's say, Okomo Oil, for example, and working with their citizens to produce a lot of palm kernel, to produce the palm oil for export. And the state government funding that process and supporting them in that and generating income, paying up the farmers and with their profit, and also generating profit directly. I think this is what we should be talking about, because the state has what it takes to be able to do this across different states in the federation.
If I could just come in here, some might argue, how competitive are these exports from these from states? We know that the manufacturers themselves, struggle with, day-to-day running of the businesses. You mentioned Okomo Oil. Okomo Oil is big and well known. I want to imagine that there are smaller clusters of farmers who would also like to become exporters themselves. But what kind of support are they receiving in that regard?
That's one of the reasons in the RT200 FS of CBN, that's one of the reasons CBN is giving 65 naira to $1, in addition to whatever exchange rate they are getting when the good comes in. What is interesting about this is when you are adding value, you're at an advantage. For example, if I'm exporting raw cashew nut, maybe I will sell at 1,002, 1,003, 1,005. If I'm exporting cashew kernel, in which I've removed the shell, I can sell as high as $7,000, $8,000. Now, cocoa beans, for example, total market size of cocoa beans is about 9.35 billion. Chocolate alone is about $30 billion. Because of the value addition, it's giving manufacturers an advantage. In spite of the infrastructural deficit, Esther, Nigerian businesses are still exporting to West Africa and Central Africa in a profitable manner, in spite of infrastructural deficit. And with the CBN RT200 FX, a number of people are still able to do it. So for commodities, you are right, to a large extent, the margin might be very thin and not very competitive, which is why the whole idea around value addition becomes necessary. But with value addition, it becomes possible. And a number of foreign-owned businesses in Nigeria are doing it right now.
So when you talk of value addition or value-added exports, so that obviously takes us to the processing aspect of the value chain. Yeah. So that is obviously more cost. I'm not saying it's not possible or that it's not being done. I'm just saying that we're at a time where, energy costs are high, so many other inputs, imported inputs. That takes us to the conversation of Forex. I don't want us to have that conversation now. But I'm just asking that perhaps those are some of those potholes or stumbling blocks that is preventing us from having a larger number of exporters, domestic exporters in the country.
I think one of the major challenges in my research is the idea of readiness. There are businesses who really should be exporting, but the business is not structured in a way that it will be able to export in a successful and sustainable manner. I would rather, as a country, we focus on how do we get our businesses ready for export, so that we'll be able to begin to take export more seriously, rather than saying because of cost. Because sincerely, Esther, instead of the cost, I was talking to my colleague recently, there is a business that will have shut down right now because of diesel cost. But do you know why they are able to still continue? The exchange rate to dollar to naira is a good news for them. Such that in spite of the high cost of diesel, of energy, because of the exchange rate going up, they are at an advantage, which is the whole idea of being productive anyway, because then you can exchange at a better rate. And with CBN adding 65 naira to $1 to it again, that's an advantage. So if I'm adding value, I'm at an advantage actually, because I'm going to generate in Forex and I'm going to exchange it at a reasonable rate that still make me profitable in spite of the infrastructural deficit. So I think those that are not able to do it, the idea really is the idea of being ready to be able to do it.
All right, Bamidele, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Bamidele Ayimibo, export consultant.